Hello guys and gals, me Mudahar, and I need a little palate cleanser from yesterday's video. I just need something to like kind of calm me down, all right, ladies and gentlemen. I've had a real black-pilling few days looking into human trafficking and the whole Epstein stuff. But you know what? I'm gonna laugh at an organization that I think everyone's laughing at. Okay, I'm gonna laugh. I'm gonna have a good time today. And who are we laughing at? Well, the FBI. Now I know the FBI is a big organization. They got a lot of important things to do. Okay, but it's really funny to me how like literally in the last few days, I feel like the credibility has kind of been like completely cratered at this point because. It's like when you ask the FBI, hey, can we look into releasing some information, look into really investigating a serious case of the elites in our world and human trafficking? And the FBI is just like, what? Have you heard of piracy, mother? Yeah, FBI Atlanta. Ooh, they seize a major video game piracy website. Now, when I read this, I was like, man. Leave it to the feds to have the greatest timing in the world, dude. Like, god damn, what a deflection here. So, I'm somebody that in the last, I would say, year or two, I've kind of loosened my stance towards things like piracy. Now, obviously, as per YouTube's TOS, piracy is wrong. It is haram. But as a personal person, I don't think Jesus is going to deny you entry to heaven or something just because you downloaded a ROM off the internet of a game that came out like 2 decades ago, okay? Trust me, you're fine. There's a lot more evil things that you can do than just download a Super Nintendo ROM. So anyways, the FBI dismantled the infrastructure of these websites. So anyways, between February 28th and May 28th this year, they recorded 3.2 million downloads occurred on plenty of websites, right? And that resulted in a loss of $170 million. Now, which asshole did they dig out to get that fact? I feel like they did the 4chan math, so to speak. Now, this is a green text you might have seen. Pirate game. Company loses $60. Delete the game. Company receives back $60. Pirate the game a million times. Company loses $60 million and declares bankruptcy. Yeah, I feel like the FBI is going on with the mathematic that every single person who downloads a game, yeah, just compare it to the MSRP. Boom, lost sale, lost sale, lost sale. Even though it's a lot more complicated than that, I would say if you're so against piracy, I want you to remember that the used games market is similar too, and I promote that shit all the time. Imagine one guy buying the game and then it gets traded like a venereal disease 5 or 6 times through the course of its lifespan. Yeah, that one $60 game probably was played by maybe 5 or 6 more people, right? Maybe. But anyways, to go down, they remove certain sites like NSW2U, NSWDL, Big N Game. So a lot of these are Nintendo Switch ROM sites. So remember, okay, if you were hosting Nintendo Switch games, well, you're just lucky the FBI showed up to your house because there's a lot more dangerous motherfuckers that could pop up, okay? Those goddamn Nintendo ninjas don't screw around. You also got PS4 Package and Meganitu.com. I don't know if that's some X-Men website, but that PlayStation 4 package, yeah, there's a lot of people who are downloading games like PT, maybe Bloodborne to play on an emulator or something. Yeah, if you ever downloaded a game, you're a bad person. You're going to go to hell. These domains hosted and facilitated access to the pirated video games. Anyone visiting these websites will now view a seizure banner that notifies them the domain has been taken out. So here, I'll show you how it works. Let's say we want to go to ps4package.net, yada, yada, yada. You're like, damn, I want to download a fucking Drive Club or something like that, right? I don't even think they sell that game anymore. Woo! Oh, wait, that can't be reached? Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs. Let's go to that Nintendo website. Ooh, maybe I want to download a Metroid game. Uh-oh. That site's been seized. And yeah, that's just kind of how it works, ladies and gentlemen. Boom. Gamers, it is really difficult to be a gamer these days. Now, I loved ever since yesterday, one thing I really appreciated from the comment section was at least there was a lot of people that really took the words I said to heart there when I said, when you look at all these crazy, like cover-ups in politics, it's never really about the left or right. It's just about the elites versus the plebeians they seek to separate. And of course, even the president got ratioed on his own social media platform. I think it was like Truth Social or something. What's going on, my boys? And in some cases, gals. In some cases, there are some girls in the audience, but mostly, it's a sausage fest. They're all going after my attorney general. Yeah, because she's a lying bitch who's doing a fantastic job. We're on one team, MAGA, and I don't like what's happening. We have a perfect administration, the talk of the world. But everyone's hurting it. They're over a guy that never dies, Epstein, over and over again. Yeah, man, I mean, you know, if you didn't just bill your whole goddamn, if you didn't bill it as a major talking point, people probably wouldn't be talking about it. But you know, one thing that I've learned about piracy is I don't even think it's really all that illegal, to be real with you. You know, it's definitely a civil crime, don't get me wrong, but sometimes I really feel like a lot of these crimes only just matter. As long as you can afford to pay the fine, right? Which is what really separates the elites of our world from the general people they try to divide at the bottom, okay? The people that have to keep fighting with each other. Because if we stop fighting with each other and just collectively looked at who was causing us our pain, yeah, there's a lot of people at the top that would start facing the goddamn guillotines, I would imagine. It'd be some French Revolution type shit. But anyways, for anybody that doesn't know what's happened, there's an AI company by the name of Anthropic. And they basically were alleged, ladies and gentlemen, for downloading around 7 million books. Yeah, you know, if I downloaded 7 million fucking ROMs off the internet, I would actually imagine the feds would bust through my house. You know, like this movie called Hackers I used to watch back in the day. There was a scene where like this kid wakes up and the feds are in his house and shit. I was like, man, they're gonna show up to my house if I download a ROM. When I was a kid and I, you know, happened to download something off the internet, back in the day, ROM sites used to say like, delete within 24 hours. I used to think if you didn't, bro, the feds would bust in and just take my whole family away. I would be in jail as a goddamn 8-year-old. You know what I mean? Then I realized, wow, that's pretty stupid the older I got. But the point is, you know, piracy is really only a crime that you get punished for. If you're not in the boys club, if you're not in that elite club, if you don't have the money to pay for the fine. So anyways, these guys downloaded tons of these books and scanned tons of books, and then they fed them through their AI model Claude to train off of that stuff, because that's how AI stuff works. Now, from what the court said, the apparent judge actually said that the fair use was in training data, right? Like, I guess you can train using pirated materials because it falls under fair use. Now, it's a bit of a touchy case because in some ways, I actually do like this decision. Because in some cases, for things like the Internet Archive and for them preserving and like providing access, I think this benefits them, even though it's not a one-to-one like tangential connection to their case. But then again, what the actual group said was that, yes, they won in summary judgment for the fair use, but when it came to piracy, there is definitely a liability that's there. And apparently in the United States, I believe when it comes to damages related to piracy, I believe it's somewhere around $150,000 per pirated work. So if you factored it into 7 million, you're looking at about $1 trillion. And I don't think it's ever going to happen. You're not going to get any award in that capacity. If anything, they will probably get hit for the piracy. Maybe they'll get hit for the damages. But to be fair, when you're one of these big tech AI companies, you just factor that in anyways. Again, piracy is only a crime if you can't afford the fine. And I feel like that's the case for most civil crimes, right? Like, do whatever you have to. As long as you know you're going to be paying a fine, steal everyone's data, pirate whatever you want. Who gives a shit? Now, when it comes to video game piracy, just in the context of game preservation, I am 100% supportive of it, but there's caveats to what I just said. There's really two cases where I think it's actually totally ethically fine. One of them is when you have a game that you cannot purchase. Like, for instance, there's a lot of games that don't release fully on disk, or games that have insane DRM or online-only attachments that prevent you from actually owning a game once the game company takes that server away or whatever. I think in that case, if the game is piratable, I really don't see a problem. If you can't own something, can you really even pirate it? It's a really good philosophical question that I see asked all the time on Reddit, okay? And trust me, I feel like out of the only questions I see there, it's one that really makes me think. If you can't buy something, if you can't truly own something, can you even actually pirate it? And the other example is when you're dealing with like a really old game, like from 20 years ago, like, if I want to play something that doesn't get sold out into the market, like a Dragon Quest game on the PlayStation 2 that doesn't get sold out on Steam or any of these platforms, is it really wrong to pirate a game that's so old and not even sold anymore? If at the end of the day, Square Enix or even the developers don't actually benefit from your sale. If the only person benefiting is Jim Bob selling the game for $100 on eBay, I'm going to look at, do I give this random person $100 for a PS2 game that doesn't even benefit the original creator? Or do I just go to a website and get an ISO file? I don't know. What makes more logical sense? What's actually more convenient, okay? Wait 3 days for it to be shipped, or wait 3 minutes for it to be shipped digitally? There's a lot of questions, all right? There's a lot of things you kind of have to ask yourself. Now, again, throughout this whole video, I just want to preface this. I am not condoning or endorsing or teaching you how to pirate stuff ever. But I think it's interesting we live in a world where I feel like piracy has become such a necessity, or it's becoming a needed necessity, because one of the things that I always really liked was that one quote, I think it was from Gabe Newell, where he's like, piracy is usually a service problem, right? Like at some point, piracy was a huge issue, I believe, in like Russia. I believe in a lot of Eastern European countries, and it still is. And so what happened was, I believe at the time, Valve came into their storefront and they were like, all right, we'll regionally price our games, so they're going to be more affordable to the average salary in this area. We're going to be providing a digital distribution service that is more convenient than a lot of these pirate websites. And generally speaking, when you download from us, you in theory shouldn't be exposed to things like malware. So they created a great service. They created something that was appealing to that market. And that market rewarded them with actual money. And then it became, a place where developers or publishers weren't just losing a sale, they actually had the avenue of making money through there, okay? And that's one of the important parts about piracy. Now, one of the things that I like doing is when I like working on stuff, whether I'm coding, whether I'm like playing a video game or recording a video or editing a video, sometimes I like to have shit playing on my screen. And one of those things is South Park. And it's kind of hilarious because, literally, if you haven't been following, they have had a rights battle for the last few days. The creators of the show and the platform distributors have been having beef to the point where the entire show is actually entirely removed from parts of the world. So, for instance, if you go to like South Park, for instance, they'll just straight up tell you, guys, this merger we're in is a shit show. And it's fucking up South Park. We're at the new studio working on new episodes, and we hope the fans get to see them somehow. So even in this case, the creative in this situation is just making their stuff. But except the distributor, the rights holder, the streaming platform is just so awful to work with that it's ruined the entire experience for everyone. And that's the thing that I also hate too, is like the amount of streaming services that we have to basically be exposed to, okay? I fucking hate how many streaming services are in the market. It used to be you had fucking Netflix, maybe you had something else, but I feel like everything is a goddamn service. And I'm not gonna turn this into a goddamn like ad for like one of those services where they teach you how to like cancel your subscriptions, but look at your subscriptions. Look how much money you spend every month. You might actually forget that you're spending maybe like $100 a month or like 50, 60, 70 bucks on multiple different streaming services combined, right? And the fact that, one streaming service used to be like $10 one year, and then like the next year it jumped up to $20, $25 because, all the prices are just going up across the board. Yeah, it's a pretty expensive world to be in. I remember being younger, looking at like cable TV services. My parents bitched about it. They were like, why does cable TV cost so fucking much a month? And then I remember when Netflix came out, they're like, whoa, hold on, pal. You get to watch all of your movies and TV shows at any time you want. You can just stream them. And it was like, what, maybe like $8.99 a month or something when it came out? Amazing deal. All right, immediately cable was useless. It's like, why would I choose to go with a cable service and watch whatever shit they threw that day, or I could just watch from a catalog of stuff that was generally interesting, maybe not always good, but at least it was a whole bunch of stuff that I could watch. And yeah, that's when I jumped into it. And then, of course, every other streaming service came by. You know, it's crazy that anytime I want to watch a specific show, I have to go to a certain different streaming service. Sometimes it could be fucking Crave. Sometimes it could be Paramount. Sometimes it could be Netflix. You know what? How about this for you, okay? Sometimes when you're watching a show like Parks and Recreation, the funniest thing for me on Amazon Prime Video, and the only reason I have Prime Video is because my mom has Amazon Prime, so I just like log into her account to watch a few episodes. And like literally they have certain episodes in this show that are just not on Amazon Prime. So you have to go to a pirate website to watch a fucking show because the right holders are absolute fucking assholes. It is insanity. You know, we've gotten to a point where, like, even if you pay for a subscription service, the amount of ads you have to see, like Amazon Prime, feels like cable television, okay? You put on an episode of Parks and Recreation, you're getting the same ad placements you would get on cable fucking television, okay? And at this point, all right, I am just kind of done with it. Anytime I come across TV shows that do this kind of unnecessary behavior, it's so tempting. It's so tempting to find a website that offers this kind of stuff for free. But generally speaking, I'm not here to promote that. I'm just here to just kind of talk about piracy a little bit. And just this general attack on the entire piracy world, which is really funny. Because a couple of years ago, what I found was really interesting was that apparently in 2017, it came out that the EU suppressed this 300-page study that actually even found out that, you know, piracy didn't really harm sales all that much. Now you can read this all for yourself. It's literally 300 pages of this entire this report that was done, basically looking at, you know, movies, video games, music, so on and so forth. And according to this, they said that inside, the only negative link the report found was with major blockbuster films. The results show a displacement rate of 40%, which means that for every 10 recent top films watched illegally, 4 fewer films are consumed legally. But the report concluded in general, the results do not show robust statistical evidence of displacement of sales by online copyright infringements. That does not necessarily mean that piracy has no effect, but only that the statistical analysis does not prove with sufficient reliability that there is an effect. But yeah, it's just funny to me when I read this kind of stuff, and it just comes across that really it feels like a lot of these big agencies like the RIAA, the whole like copyright firms out there, the legal firms that represent some of these organizations, and law enforcement agencies spend so much time to try and destroy something that literally would not exist if the services provided would just actually be better. You know, the older I got, the less I actually pirated. Like, I'm not going to deny it. When I was a kid, you know, piracy is something that everyone did because we just didn't have the disposable income to buy anything. And the older I got, the more it became that maybe it's just to test out if like a game was actually functioning well on the PC or if it was even worth buying, kind of like a demo, if you will, an unofficial demo. But again, now with like things like Steam refunds, again, a good service, you know, I don't really have a need to mostly pirate a video game. I can just kind of test them to see if they work. And if they don't work technically, then that's a good refund. And again, piracy exists not just because people want free shit. I mean, there's definitely people that do not have any desire to spend money on stuff. But it exists because you have just made it so annoying to be a video gamer that wants to own their games. You have made it so annoying to consume movies, music, television shows without things constantly showing up and off streaming services or digital platforms, to a point where people are jumping on to literally illicit ways in order to actually consume their content, because in some cases, those illegal sites probably provide a better experience in some weird way. But that being said, ladies and gentlemen, all things considered, I think it's funny to go back to the beginning that, you know, organizations like the FBI, when they're under so much pressure because of this Epstein nonsense, if all else fails, take down a pirate website. Show people that we're actually doing something. You know, taking down a pirate website isn't going to do anything worth a damn, because any of those sites have already have been replaced by other alternatives out there. Literally, you're playing the most useless game of whack-a-mole. And if I was the FBI, If I was any of these organizations, I would probably try to salvage whatever reputation I had and release information on people actually harming human beings in a very tangible way. Not somebody downloading a ROM of a video game, guys. I'm sorry, that's not the most dangerous, that shouldn't be the most pressing concern. But what do I know, you know? If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Just like it if you dislike it, I am out.